Well, hello everybody. Thank you for taking the time to register and join us for this update. My name is Adam Jull. I'm the CEO of IMS CAD over here in London, in the UK. We've got attendees from all over the world, so we're going to try and keep things quite generic today. But myself and my operations director, Chris Harvey, who will be taking you through the presentation, are excited to explain the new changes. And the update for FY14 is certainly an exciting one around virtualization. There's a few people still attending at the moment, so I'm just going to carry on with the introduction and get the housekeeping done, and then obviously Chris will take over and actually present the slides to you. So without further ado, we've got over 100 people registered today, so that's really good. We had about 70 last time. This is our third Autodesk Development Network webinar. We want, obviously everyone is on mute all at the moment, so we want to make sure that there's no background noise, as little as possible. Through the webinar, obviously things will come up in your mind that you may want to ask us questions. We are going to have a Q&A at the end. There is a questions box down at the bottom of your control panel. If you see that, there's webcam, polls, chat, questions. If you just go into the questions box, you can type in any time you want if there's any concerns or any questions you may have, and we'll try our best to answer them at the end of the webinar. So we are obviously going to be recording this as well, so we'll obviously be able to let you have a link to that. We'll also have it up on the ADN website and communicated through Autodesk. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to my colleague Chris Harvey. So Chris.
Hi everyone, this is Chris Harvey, Operations Director, IMS CAD here in London, in the UK. We've still actually got a lot of people joining the webinar, a little bit late. No problem at all, you haven't missed anything at this stage. Adam's just given you a brief overview and obviously indicated we've got everyone on mute to try and keep background noise to a minimum. We're still very busy in the office here in London, so if we get any noise from my end, my apologies for that. So really we're here today to talk about the FY14, a brief update to give you an update and an overview, pretty much to tell you how the changes, detail the changes for you, how these are going to impact you and of course your business. That's the relevant thing to everybody and to all of us. So let's move straight forward into my summary presentation today. I'm going to start. The objective of today is to give you a sort of brief background into the virtualization strategy of Autodesk, where they've been historically, where they are, and what's changed with the FY14 releases. So we're going to basically do that as a brief overview for you. Then I'm going to give you a little bit of detail about why you're talking, or why we're here, IMS CAD, why we're giving you this information, what support services we can offer you. But ultimately, it's really, we're a support partner. We're here to assist people in taking these virtual solutions to clients, specifically based around CAD products, obviously. And it's really just an overview of what we can do for you and really to get you up to speed on what's changed in those latest releases. So, brief roadmap. Let's look back at Autodesk. They started on the virtualization road with Map 3D back in 2009. That was a product on its own. We started our work with Autodesk at that point. We were brought in to assist with that product as we had Citrix skills and virtualization skills. Obviously, it was fairly evident to us that an individual product on its own in a Citrix environment was rather pointless. And we then embarked on doing pilot projects with Autodesk to get the other products up to the Citrix certification and ready for virtualized environments. Pilot projects we ran, big, multinational, pretty much across geo, various projects with different companies. And at the result, the termination of all of that, we saw the release in 2012, the 2012 release of the AEC-based products, obviously AutoCAD, a few in the range, and the range of Revit products. Now, from there, what we've then gone on to from that point. 2013, we saw some additional products, more geared around the manufacturing arena. We obviously with Inventor, products of that nature. We've also seen some developments with the civil products, more infrastructure based. But they were the key movements we've seen. What's basically happened is we've seen more and more products coming into the virtualized environment and being supported by Citrix, by Autodesk for use in that virtualized environment. So what I need to talk to you about today is, of course, what's changed, what's happened, what's changed for FY14. There's two key changes which I'm going to highlight to you today. The first of those key changes is the licensing. What's happened and what's changed in licensing. The standard LSA, what we've seen, what's basically moved forward. We've now got to the position, I think it's safe to say that licensing and Autodesk have never been happy bedfellows. There's always been some conflict, and I think everyone's always felt that in all areas of the Autodesk community. What we're seeing is, I think, making licensing a little bit simpler. Effectively, FY14 means that we can now put any NLM product in a virtualized environment. Now, I think what we need to specify here is that any virtualized environment under licensing means any virtualized environment. So we're not just restricting under licensing to Citrix, although Citrix is the only supported virtual infrastructure for use. But that allows clients who are running these, and to be honest, some clients who were running these outside the license agreement, the previous license agreement, are now going to be license compliant. We've seen people doing this in a number of different areas. But the key thing for this is it's the change that means you can now, with FY14, you can use products well, from your NLM license manager. You can use those same products for the network users and also for the virtual users from the same license pool. So I think that is a key and fundamental change to the way the licensing is put together. And that, of course, is any NLM product. I think in the last 18 months, 2 years, we've seen a big push from Autodesk and through the reseller channels, pushing everyone towards the suites. There's been various offers for people to upgrade, and really tying people in on their subscriptions and moving them into that higher subscription bracket and into the suites of products in their different industry-specific area. What we're talking about with this new licensing, this covers anyone with multi-versions who is on subs, the individual products. So if somebody has an individual product, i.e. Revit, under NLM, then they would still need on the previous versions to look at a cross-grade to the Citrix Ready version. But I think, to be fair, with the push that's come from Autodesk historically over the last, well, certainly 18 months to 2 years, we've got less and less people falling into that bracket. If people have got more than one single product, obviously they still fall into the category of the multi-versions, and therefore we can look at them under the new licensing as well. So that's the most significant change we've seen in licensing for some time, and that's just allowing everybody to move to virtualization without the added level of complication that we have previously seen. The second major change we have seen from Autodesk in FY14 release is the change in support. Now, as I've said, the license will allow use on any virtual platform. So we're talking, the standard players here. The situation is that support from Autodesk currently, or I should say previously, is provided for Citrix, and that's the Citrix Zen app for application virtualization. What we're now seeing on the new under FY14 is that has been changed, and we're now seeing products supported under Citrix Zen Desktop. I'm going to talk about that in a little more detail when we get on to future developments, because it's a slightly complex area. Zen Desktop, in essence, is a suite of products, or has been a suite of products, which includes Zen App, but the support was given for Zen App for application virtualization. The change to Zen Desktop support from Autodesk is significant, and there's changes which I'll speak about a little bit later in future developments with regard to NVIDIA and what we're seeing happening with them with the VGX technology, which is going to change how desktop virtualization happens in the future. But at this stage, suffice it to say, the support offered from Autodesk is Citrix and not for any other virtualization platform. So the key changes we're seeing, obviously, is that change in support, moving from XenApp to XenDesktop, but equally is the extension of the supported products under Citrix. We used to see the Citrix Ready list. Well, that now includes some of the suites, and we're seeing the AutoCAD Design Suite, the Building Design Suite, which is obviously massive in the AEC arena, the Infrastructure Design Suite, which clearly is also a huge product, certainly for the utilities and the like, and equally the Plant Design Suite. Now, we actually conducted the testing on the Product Design Suite, but we understand there's some delay before that will be given the official support from Autodesk. What I think at this point I need to just give you some clarifying information on this. There are some component parts of the suites which are not supported. While the suites themselves are supported, there are some bits within them that are not. This is due to scalability. Normally, in essence, IMS-CAD and ourselves, we can actually provide support on those, or certainly give further advice onto the deployment of those and any restrictions in terms of how they can be deployed. A simple one that springs to mind is something like 3ds Max, which is you're going to have problems deploying under it in a XenApp environment. However, as we've said, the support was now changed to XenDesktop, where there's certain policies within XenDesktop which are actually going to make deployment of a product like 3ds Max much easier under XenDesktop. So we can advise and give further information to anyone who needs it on deployment of specific products out of those suites. But it's a key change that we've seen for the suites actually now getting the support from Autodesk directly. So we have been addressing this market for some time now. We've been supporting people in the marketplace for some time. The key objections that we see on a day-to-day basis have been regarding licensing, and equally regarding that the suites weren't covered and supported by Citrix. So what we've seen is basically those two key objections both now being removed. So from that we can see what changes are going to happen to and affect your business and the markets that you operate in. So we personally have seen a massive increase in virtualization adoption. I think traditionally we've seen that CAD users have been excluded from the corporate virtualization strategies. There's lots of corporate clients, both SMB and enterprise, who have in place virtualization, be that at server level, be that at different levels within their infrastructure, some at desktop level, and they've basically had to exclude the CAD users from that for some time. And I think the changes that we're seeing really mean that the CAD users can now be brought in line with that. We've certainly seen the technology come up to date in the last 2 years. Certainly in the last year, the level of the technology and performing and the performance that we can give, you know, we're talking about realistically providing workstation comparable performance over the WAN. What's changed now is that we've seen that uplift and that change to on the licensing, which now allows that as well. So that we're going to see that key increase in virtualization adoption. Obviously, virtualization, the reason people are adopting it, there's some key benefits. Centralized application management is obviously one of the underlying factors, which is always driving IT. Centralizing data for security and IP protection is obviously another one. We're seeing this more and more in certain industries. This is becoming more relevant, where they don't want distributed data. The centralizing aspects of Citrix are obviously perfect for those solutions and improve the levels of security. I think the other key things, general collaboration. We're seeing more and more people working on projects, certainly in the AEC arena. We've got people coming in working with subcontractors, both internal, external contractors needing to get access to data and plans. The general mobility aspects that we're seeing from virtualized environments, Citrix delivering applications to anywhere and any device is obviously key. We personally have deployed architects who work on site, even on iPads over 3G, actually viewing plans from back at their HQ. The other key benefit obviously is the reduced hardware expenditure. Once you put all your investment into the servers, then we're talking about limited investment in the endpoint devices. So we're looking at reductions in hardware upgrades and expensive workstation upgrades for people needing that on a 2 or 3 year cycle. So I think what we're saying here is basically what we're seeing it already. We're seeing an increase in virtualization adoption. Technology's there. Now we're seeing the changes in the licensing that's going to allow it. So I think it's not unrealistic to assess that we're going to see an increase in demand for the services and products that you offer, and those services and products that you offer, a demand for those in the virtual environment. So Autodesk are now supporting the range of products for virtualization, including the suites. I think it's safe to say the level of support, I mean, Autodesk obviously are application experts, Citrix are platform experts. Finding the gap in between is where we sit as IMS CAD. Now, I don't want to make today too salesy at all. We really want to try and keep this to giving you guys information. We do sit in that middle ground. We are a support resource to assist you in deploying and supporting your products, your services, and your clients with virtualization around CAD. So we're an ADN member. We work with partners globally, directly with the major accounts consulting teams, and we've probably deployed more than most other people, and certainly with a multitude of apps, plugins, add-ons, different bits and pieces in virtual environments. So we're here to help you guys with this as a support resource, so please feel free to use us on that. One of the other things I think which might be of relevance to people out there is the testing services that we can offer. We conducted the original pilot test, as I said, for Autodesk prior to the release of AutoCAD and Revit, the 2012 releases. We did the certification testing for the suites. We work very closely with NVIDIA. We've done a lot of testing with them on their latest products with use of virtualized CAD. Certainly, we're seeing huge developments with Citrix and NVIDIA regarding the VGX technology. They're basically, well, I'll come to that later. We've done testing for them at this stage with their new cars, certainly cars like the Grid K2, which include the multiple GPUs on a single card, the new Kepler GPUs. We've done testing with them in this area. We're obviously working with them in the future. We also do testing for Citrix, beta testing versions of the latest releases and fixes. We're certainly working on one with an OpenGL fix, which was evident in XenApp, becomes relevant when you're deploying Adobe, SketchUp and products of that nature. And equally developments for them with Zen Desktop. So we've got a team of engineers here familiar with virtual environments, can set up specific problems to virtualize applications, and we've got a controlled test lab to replicate pretty much any environment so we can assist. And the key thing here is your products and your clients and what you're doing. We can assist, and we've done this with other people, is working to get them Citrix certification on their products, so their products are Citrix ready, and just to underline the fact that their products will work in a virtual environment, be that Citrix or otherwise. So that's another potential service we can help you with. If you see your products being required in this environment, then certainly look upon us to assist you with that. I'm going to touch really briefly upon the cloud. It's a term bandied around. Everyone's becoming familiar or more and more confused by it. I'm not sure which. I think we're hearing a lot from Autodesk surrounding the cloud. We know a lot of their partners, resellers, are slightly uncomfortable about some of the information coming from Autodesk and what they're doing. There's clearly a commitment from them to move towards the cloud in some way, shape or form, and we're seeing various parts of their offerings that touch upon the cloud. I think the clarity that we would like to put on this is that what we're talking about there in terms of public clouds is really geared at individual product users and potentially SMBs. But I think when we're talking about enterprise and real corporate-based clients, we should really concentrate on what we're talking about and what we deliver and what we assist with, and what we're talking about with Citrix, which is private clouds. You won't, at this day and age, we're not ready yet for clients to adopt the public cloud. Certainly the bigger enterprise clients won't be adopting private clouds wholeheartedly in their business approach, because I don't think there's enough confidence in them yet. I don't think they've been around long enough, and I think people need levels of control of data, of applications, of various other things that they still want to keep a higher level of control. The other point I put up there is hybrid. I think what we're seeing in our deployments, certainly at enterprise level, we're seeing a mix. We're seeing a mix where there is usage of the public cloud, but what we're really setting up are private clouds, private to the company, with access for external subcontractors to come in a controlled environment. And equally, when we say a hybrid, I think we're also still seeing currently deployments where we're also seeing a mix of public cloud, private cloud, and indeed still workstation. And I think at this stage, I think we're going to still see a mix of different users. I don't think we're particularly going to see everybody jump to one technology or another quite yet. I think there's still a long way to go in confidence and in market take-up in certain areas. But I think I really just wanted to clarify that. I think there's some mixed messaging goes around. But what we're really talking about with virtualization and what we're doing and the relevant changes on FY14 are really around that private cloud area. So I'm going to touch on the solutions we're deploying for our clients and partners, and just sort of give you some details of what they are. They vary in nature, the architecture based on a number of real key factors which are changing this. And these are, what are the key benefits that are driving the project to move towards virtualization? That has an impact on how we deploy this. As I say, we're looking at hybrid deployments, some use of public cloud, some private. Whether it's test teams, whether it's mobile users who are driving the desire, whether it's a security issue that's driving the desire. All of these things are changing how we do the deployment. It also varies depending upon what applications people are looking to virtualize, what add-ons are being virtualized. You know, there's not many people out there who are CAD users who are using solely one CAD product. I think in every single deployment we've looked at, there has been additions, whether that's Adobe, whether it's add-ons, whether it's plugins, you know, whether it's Bentley, for instance, we see occasionally. But there's always additional stuff that people are looking to deploy, and that really changes the nature of the deployment, as does the legacy infrastructure that we see, or legacy applications that we're trying to cater for within that deployment. So in terms of solutions and how these are going out, there's a lot of different factors that have to be considered and catered for in any of our virtualized deployments. The key thing in all of them that makes these a success and how we do this deployment successfully is really quite simple. It comes down to the servers and putting the correct resource at server to give the power to deploy these resource-hungry applications successfully in these environments. So that's what it really comes down to, is servers. Now, we, in preference, specify Hewlett-Packard for the servers we use. We've thoroughly tested them. We're very happy with their performance. We currently are in discussion with Dell for testing of a number of their servers, also to be used, obviously, in this environment. You know, we're aware of a lot of people working, for example, with NVIDIA, Supermicro, IBM, Asus, Cisco even. So we've got a lot of other companies entering this arena now in terms of servers suitable for virtualization. So it's a fairly open game on that, and we're here to give you advice, suggestions, information relating to different products, because it's a fairly complex area, but it is key to ensuring that that we get the correct deployment. Now, I touched upon new developments where things are changing. A lot of new servers are going to be able to take the new cards from NVIDIA, where we're talking about passively called cards as opposed to the actively called cards. That, again, is going to bring a different dynamic to the servers that are available. So we're going to see different movements in that area. From our perspective, in terms of the application virtualization, some of the key factors we've got to look at in servers: the number of cores required. How many cores do we need in a server for application deployment? Well, what we're seeing on a lot of the new Intel chips, we're obviously seeing the hyper-threaded cores. They will allow us to obviously increase the number of effective cores in a server. So we might have dual 8-core CPUs running at 2.67 gigahertz. We wouldn't normally go for a slower speed than that in anything we're using. Hyper-threaded cores, so we're effectively talking about 32 cores. In that situation, we would normally be expecting from there, with a straight application virtualization on a single application, to be running somewhere in the region of 30 to 35 users. Now, that's as an application virtualization. If we're talking about desktop virtualization, then we need to look at a core per user or thereabouts, and then, of course, allocating additional cores for the virtualization of the application. So again, this comes back to picking the right servers where you can perhaps expand for VDI usage with CPU cores, and also cores on an effective sled or server with GPU ability, so that we can get the GPU performance available to the application users. So really the core's a bit flexible there about how we do this with application as compared to desktop. In terms of RAM, I think we should touch upon RAM's really dependent upon how many applications we're running, what are the size of the files, the models. We have to look at the user workflows. It's a little bit complicated. I think if we look at what Building Design Suite is probably now 12 applications, I would think you probably need 35 to 40 gigabytes just to load it. So these are the implications we're looking at when we're taking things from the workstation deployment to a central server deployment, is how much RAM we need in the server to effectively deploy this. So we can be talking some significant numbers, but once this resource is centrally pooled, it's obviously used much more efficiently. But that will give you an idea. We would normally, if we're looking at something like Building Design Suite with multiple users, you'd be sort of starting figure of 128 gig of RAM at server level. The other thing to touch upon, which I put up there, GPU. And this is the key, but this is really what makes this technology so effective. We've seen deployments at workstation where people are looking at CAD deployments. Let's say Revit, for example. You would normally be looking at placing a minimum of a 1 gig GPU in each workstation. For Revit, we'd normally see that as a 2 gig GPU. Well, in reality, once we bring this back to a central pooled environment and we have users taking the resource in a pooled manner, we are effectively delivering to Revit users at something like 0.25 of a gig per user when deployed in this environment. And that's on a matrix of something like 20 users. So we really can minimize the amount of expensive GPU that's needed by bringing that into the server, and that really is the huge saving in terms of hardware expenditure for moving to this level of technology. Now, what we're seeing now, as I've touched upon with NVIDIA, I think NVIDIA, they're pretty much the ones to talk about when we're talking about GPUs. What we're seeing from NVIDIA now is, of course, these new ranges of cards that they're releasing with the Kepler GPUs. They're taking, we've seen a movement from the Quadro products where we had a reasonable number of CUDA cores. The latest Kepler GPUs have got over 3,000 CUDA cores, so we can put 2 GPUs on a single card, and this really is changing the GPU usage and the scalability that we're going to see available from servers. So with new hyper-threading at core level, with developments at GPU level, we're basically putting the number of users per server up even higher. There are some situations we need to look at and should be considered in these situations, and that's if we're going to run live rendering on the system, if we need to dedicate perhaps GPUs for that purpose, or indeed if we're going to have a server dedicated for the rendering. But again, as I touched upon previously, we're looking at hybrid solutions, so we're looking at mixes of solutions. Autodesk offer cloud rendering services which can be utilised. So as we say, we see these deployments touching on a number of those different areas. So that's enough about servers. I'm going to give you a brief summary. We're basically trying to keep it fairly short and sweet today. What I want to do is obviously open this up to the questions at the end, which is often going to be more revealing and give people more information specific to what they're looking at. So to summarise the key changes that we've seen, there may only be 2 key changes, but they are significant. They're really massive changes. Changes to the SLA make it easier to switch to adopting virtualization. You may see, partial movement to that arena, people wanting to cater for mobile users or something of that nature. But now they don't need to remove licenses from their existing license pool to look at a switch and an adoption to virtualization. So the same NLM license can be used by the network and the virtual user. It's a big change. We're not going to have the same license compliance issues. So even on the unsupported products that Autodesk offer, we can see those put in a virtual platform without falling in breach of license compliance. So that equally is a massively important step forward. The support issues, some clients, let's be fair, some clients do require or do like to be underpinned by the official Autodesk support. If that's an issue for them, then Autodesk confirming their support for the suites increases the clients who potentially can adopt. The 4 suites we've seen come with the support from Autodesk is a huge uplift. We've got a lot of companies, everyone's got a lot of clients who fall into those areas, be those infrastructure based or in the AEC arena. So that again is a huge movement, but they've got that level of comfort that they've got support there from Autodesk on those products. And obviously from our perspective we can provide support and certainly advice and knowledge on the other and the unsupported products that are there. So I think the upshot of all of this is we're going to see demand for virtualization of your products, of the services you offer, and we're going to see demand for those increase in deployment in virtual environments. And that's really what we need to concentrate on is how that's going to be. So our position here is to support you with deploying and supporting virtualization for your products, your services, your clients. We can help you get your products ready for virtualization in our testing labs, or we can simply help you plan and understand what's coming in the future and how your products can fit into this potentially in the future. So the fact that FY14 now supports products for desktop virtualization, not just application virtualization, is obviously a relevant fact. We're seeing, and this is obviously down to corporate desire and what their key buying factors are and what their motivations are and what their key drivers for any project are. We see some companies moving application virtualization as their way forward for their key apps. Other companies are really looking at desktop virtualization to massively reduce their whole infrastructure management. There's different implications on that. I touched upon it earlier. Some products will be better virtualized in a Zen desktop or a desktop virtualized environment. Certainly 3ds Max falls into that. We're seeing it with a few of the other products. So there's a lot more flexibility by allowing desktop virtualization, though in essence I will say Zen Desktop was always a suite of products that included Zen App. So even with Zen App being the previous supported product from Citrix, to a real extent it was Zen Desktop because Zen App was only part of the Zen Desktop suite of products. But it's that removal that allows desktop or application virtualization. So Citrix Zen Desktop currently, as I say, is a suite which includes Zen App. There are changes with Citrix. I don't know how many people have heard of Excalibur. We're seeing movements going forward. We're certainly involved in some beta testing of stuff for them. and that will actually integrate XenApp much sort of closer into Zen Desktop itself. So we've got movements coming there from Citrix in terms of what they're doing. The other key future development I think that people may be aware of, we've seen developments with Citrix and NVIDIA on work with what's termed the VGX hypervisor. That is also going to have implications for the future on how we look at deploying applications. In essence, the hypervisor is going to allow multiple users under Zen Desktop to access a single GPU. The deployments we do currently, in effect, we have to virtualize the GPU through XenApp in order for us to get multiple users to access that GPU. And this is the key, of course, to scalability of these deployments. If we're talking one user to a GPU at workstation level, if we replicated that in a server, we wouldn't get many users on a server. So the key to how we've deployed things to date, and how we will, to a large extent, still deploy things, is that we use a XenApp server for each GPU, and then we can get multiple users accessing that GPU. The changes that will happen with the VGX hypervisor will mean that through Zen Desktop, we will be able to get multiple users onto a GPU. And we've seen talk of upwards of somewhere towards 32 users accessing a single GPU through Zen Desktop. The true implications of this and how this will work in terms of application virtualization, whether the users will have enough of the GPU to perform the tasks they need to do, at this stage we're not really sure. It's an important development. It will change the way things are done, even if we only use some users, i.e. like 3ds Max users, where they will clearly benefit from having dedicated GPU. And obviously the developments in this from NVIDIA with the new Kepler cards, where we've got multi-GPUs on a single card, are obviously going to have impacts in that area. So that really is my sort of summary overview of the FY14 changes that we've seen, and how they potentially may affect you, and how we potentially can help you guys in sort of taking your products to market, and how these might affect your products in the marketplace. And in that arena, now I'm going to have a quick look. We've got some questions have been rolling in as I've been chatting away here. What flavour is Citrix is supported? The VDI in a box is not going to be supported, I can confirm for you. In terms of what is allowed under Autodesk licensing, if you wish to use VMware, you can. Hyper-V, you can. What I can tell you is that what is supported only relates to Citrix. So while the license now allows you to use these products in any form of virtualization, it is only Citrix that's supported. So we're not going to see, well, at this stage, we're not going to see support for VMware. Obviously, I can't speak for Autodesk personally, but we certainly know all of the testing and the support that is there is all centered around Citrix. One thing I can also tell you is when you're looking at developments in this technology in terms of centralizing and the centralized deployment of applications, or indeed desktops, Citrix are #1 in the world for desktop and application virtualization. VMware have a very strong position, obviously, with server virtualization. Many of you will have touched upon that. But at application and desktop virtualization, Citrix do lead the way. And the fact that Autodesk are supporting their products for Citrix is significant. The fact that NVIDIA are doing their development work on the new VGX hypervisor with Citrix, I think, also says a lot about what's happening. There will certainly be a minimum of 6 to 9 month lead time before VMware will be up to speed with those developments, that's for sure. We have, right, I have Autodesk here. From the licensing aspect, both package, subscription and non-package point products only work without session-specific licensing in FY14. It's only 2012 and 2013 products that require session-specific licenses for point products. They were not sure that that was entirely clear, so I hope that clears that up for you. Apologies, I must confess, Autodesk licensing does confuse me at times. and without having waded through the whole of the FY14 new license, we're trying to give you some summary. So Scott, I hope I've clarified that point by reading your details. Thank you for putting that over. A single user, yes, a single license is used by a single user. If you are taking licenses from a suite, you are only taking a single license. Now we have a question here, components of the design suite supported. Building design suite, we have, yeah, okay, we have. A question regarding Navis, Simulate in the building design suite. There is an exclusion of support from Autodesk on Navis in a building design suite. I can tell you we have personally tested that. We have Navis working on the Citrix platform, and it really comes down to a little bit more tweaking and such like to make it scalable in that arena, as opposed to it not working in that arena. But support is not offered currently directly from Autodesk for that component part of the suite. Is there any benefit from adding GPUs in VDI for Revit users beyond rendering and visual styles? We are finding with Revit at this stage that application virtualization is proving to be the best route forward. As I say, with Revit we can operate at 0.25 a gig per user when scaling, and if you're talking about multi-users, then that figure comes down significantly even from there. So we really can effectively, with multiple GPUs in a single server, really load up the numbers of Revit users. It's surprisingly how little they hit the GPU. You need the GPU resource there, obviously, to support them, but it really is making sure the resource is there in a pooled environment. The actual times when Revit hits it is very limited, so we're seeing excellent performance of Revit in these virtualized environments. Right, I'm just looking down here. There's quite a lot of questions about licensing. What I will say at this point, we've got a lot of people on today, and there are a lot of questions rolling in. While I will answer ones as I flash down, if I miss your question for any reason, we will be going through all of these and giving you full and detailed answers online. For anybody who would like copies of the answers to all of the questions or any of the questions, by all means just let us know, and we will happily make those available to everybody and all of the users out there. We've got no problem with that at all, so just forgive me if there's stuff that I don't answer here. So I'm just wading through a lot of these duplicates of previous questions. Right. Do you see full Inventor being supported somewhere down the line? We do. Inventor is already supported. We already have Inventor as an individual product supported. For Citrix, there was a Citrix Ready version 2013. We have deployments on Inventor very successfully running over the WAN, and I think we'll be putting a case study up of one of those actually. We're relaunching our website reasonably soon, and we'll have some additional case studies on there. There's certainly one Inventor one that we're currently drafting, so that will be going up there. But Inventor we've had running very successfully on Citrix. Right, would Revit work on Zen Desktop with GPU pass-through for best graphics performance? Would this work with Revit Zen app inside Zen Desktop? At this stage, as I say, we are seeing the benefit with Zen app, with Revit. There are certain bits in the Zen Desktop technology which, for products like 3ds Max, will be more relevant and will give you the HDX stuff in there will give you a better performance under Zen Desktop than you're going to achieve under Zen app. But for Revit, we're seeing the best performance that we can achieve actually with application virtualization. How can I develop programs as ARX add-ons to AutoCAD in a virtual environment. John, in answer to that, I think the best thing I can do is hook you in with my technical guys. As I said, we have a lot of technicians here. We have testing labs here. We are able to replicate pretty much any virtual environment or physical environment in a virtual way to set up add-ons and assist with testing of add-ons for AutoCAD or Revit or any of the other products that you guys out there make products to work with. We can put those in place and actually work with testing those for you to assist you with those. I'm not the most technical person in the world, so I won't get into great detail of all of that, but we can certainly replicate any environments and do any testings that you want with any of the applications that we can virtualize with Autodesk currently. Okay, I've still got questions jumping in at me. So just to confirm, so Autodesk recommend the use of Zen Server for virtualization, not VMware or Microsoft. What Autodesk recommend is very difficult for me to exactly clarify. The position is that the products and their licensing now allows for use in a virtual environment. They do not specify which virtual environment. What I can confirm is that the support they are providing for virtual environments, for virtualization, the support that Autodesk officially are supplying is for Citrix with XenApp and Zen Desktop. There is no specification on server in terms of what is supported by Autodesk, and indeed they're not offering or confirming any support for any form of server virtualization. The support they are providing is for Citrix application and desktop virtualization. And obviously on the products that we previously indicated, 2012 releases with AutoCAD and Revit, extended to the manufacturing stuff in 2013. We've seen a lot of new products, plant, P&ID, various things coming online along the way. And obviously with FY14, the extension of that to include the 4 suites that I mentioned earlier. So we've got the AutoCAD Design Suite, the Plant Suite, the Building Design Suite, and the Infrastructure Suite, which I think is significant. But I can't clarify that Autodesk recommend the use of Zen Server. What I would say, obviously, we have VMware specialists here in-house. We are able to do application and desktop virtualization on the VMware platform, as well as on the Citrix Zen Server platform. There are certain benefits of keeping your virtualization all under one umbrella with one virtualization supplier. There are certain inherent things within the technology that mean they obviously work better if you virtualize everything with that same company's platform. And as I say, what we can say is the platform that's supported at this stage from Autodesk with the products that's specified is for Citrix with XenApp and Zen Desktop. So I'm just seeing, I think we've covered most of the questions that have come in. If anyone's got any more, please do type away now. I hope today's given everyone a brief bit of an update in terms of what FY14 is about and those key changes. It's really the key changes we mentioned, the change to the SLA, the license change that we've seen, I think is obviously key, and also the extension of the support that they're putting out for those, for now 4 of the suites, and I'm sure we're obviously going to see some development and movement on that. As I can tell you, we did the testing on the product design suite, and there was a couple of the additional component parts in there that didn't scale particularly well, but even changes from Citrix with the new OpenGL fix have removed some of those problems. Okay, I've got some thanks coming through now from a few people who are obviously, I guess, thanking me before they sign off, so I'm going to say thank you to you as well for those people. Really briefly, I hope that's been of assistance. to you. There are some more questions coming in, and I'll just keep yeah, a few people. Jason, I am sure you can't find things on the Autodesk site. We will, what we're going to do with this webinar is obviously make this available to everybody. As I've said, we are going to give you all answers to the questions as well. We will highlight what questions have been answered. I think we should really put this out to everybody who's been on the webinar today. We'll go through all of the questions, show you well, not who was asking, but what was asked, and then we'll give you clear and concise answers to all of these questions. I can see you're asking for information about where you can get stuff from the Autodesk website. There's been some changes, obviously, on the Autodesk website. It's a fairly complicated site map to find anything on there. So what we will do is basically give you some links, and we'll liaise with Autodesk to get you the relevant areas on their site where you can find information about what support Autodesk provide under their support agreement. What I can say, obviously, we work very closely with Autodesk in terms of the certification of the products. As I indicated to you, we have a global partners model which we set up. We've got partnerships all over the place with people, with resellers and developers alike, in terms of assisting them in taking their products to market. We've been doing this a lot longer than anybody else, so we are pretty specialist in this area. We are here as a support resource, so please don't think I'm just trying to sell to you guys, because that isn't the intention of what we're here today. We're just letting you know that this is a developing area. Autodesk recognise that. We've seen the change in the licenses to reflect that. We're seeing the movement in terms of what they're supporting in virtual platforms. There is going to be demand for your products and services in virtual environments, and all we're saying is we can help you in either testing or deploying, or just in giving you a device so that you can get your products ready for those environments. So that's really what I'm here to say, not to sell to you guys today. Yeah, for those who are coming in saying you can't find stuff on the Autodesk website, we, the support, will be confirming that. Is there any, someone's asking a question here, is there any specific or optimized version of Revit for Citrix, or is it the same version for regular install? The very simple fact of this is, yes, it is your regular version. However, you've mentioned there yourself, is there any specific or optimized version of Revit for Citrix? The simple answer to that is yes, and it is the particular optimization of Revit to make it work in the virtual environment, which is the tricky bit, which is what we specialize in doing. There are tweaks, customizations, optimizations that we can make both at application level and equally at the virtualization platform level that really mean that we can get the best performance out of the application. There's no good virtualizing an application and then deploying it and having the user experience so poor that people don't want to keep using it and would rather go back to their workstation. I think the key here is being able to effectively deliver workstation comparable performance over the WAN on these applications. That's what makes this very real now. The technology's there. The change from Autodesk on the licensing reflects that, and that's the key. It's the fact we can now do this. This is a realistic option for you guys. Customers are doing this now. I'll be honest with you, our growth, in the first period of this year, in the first 4 months, we've probably picked up more business than we did in the last 12 months. We've seen a huge growth in terms of uptake. We've been telling everybody about this for some time, and obviously working with Autodesk, with Citrix, with NVIDIA to help get this to market properly. We're now seeing a real huge take-up in the marketplace. So there are opportunities there for all of you in terms of your products and services in the market. It is now real. But yeah, very much, Vern, you need to optimize them correctly to get them to run. There's a lot of little bits and pieces to do to make them work effectively, but we can certainly give you assistance and steer you in the right directions. But what you're running is effectively the same product, the same as before. It's only at the licensing you need to change. And just to go back to that the clarified bit from Autodesk, who came on earlier. Both package bracket subscription and non-package point product only work without session-specific licensing in FY14. It's only 2012 and 2013 products that require session-specific licenses for point products. So I hope that gives clarity on that licensing issue. But as I say, what we will do, everybody, will summarise everything, all of the questions, so that we can get information to all of you. So if there is any questions in there I've missed, please accept my apologies today. As I say, we'll be summarising all of that, and we'll be giving you all of that information with, along with the copy of this webinar. If anyone wants the slides or anything else, by all means come back to us. Our contact information is there on the screen. My name's Chris Harvey. I'm the Operations Director here at IMS CAD. As I say, we're more than happy to help you, give you any advice for anyone who needs it. I think the questions have stopped coming in. I'm getting thanks as people sign off, and thank you very much for listening. Thank you for giving up your time. I hope you found today's session useful. We fairly regularly do little updates for the ADN network. I think we'll continue to do that if Jim allows, which I'm sure he will, and we'll try and keep you with informative information that's going to help you people take your products and services to market. So I'm going to thank everyone for their time today. As I say, we'll post all of the information for you, including the links that you're going to need for Autodesk that people have requested. So once again, thank you very much for your time today. I hope you all have a good day, and I hope the FY14 changes are going to mean improved business for all of you out there. So best of luck with that. Please let us know if we can help you. Thank you very much today. Goodbye.